all for coming. As I mentioned during the first session, when Pastor Laura said that our theme this year was connecting through Jesus Christ, I immediately knew about this presentation that I wanted to bring to our church, and I'm so thankful to the Prister Endowment that has allowed us to bring Jenny here. So I met Jenny through her presentation work with MOPS International, which is now called MOMCO, and I brought her to share this information with my PTA family in New York State PTA, and I'm just so excited that she's able to bring it here to our congregation and our community to show us how we can use our words to encourage and uplift one another, and how our temperaments affect how we hear words and how we say words. So I'm so thankful that Jenny's here, and she'll share more about her story, and thank you so much for coming.
We're back at it. So I see a lot of familiar faces from the morning session, but we also have some new faces. So I just want to tell you a little bit about who I am and why I got started in this, so that we're all on the same page. I'm from Atlanta, so I flew up yesterday, so first time to Rochester, so love it so far. Thanks for having me. I am a single mom to 4 daughters. I have triplets that are 21. Yep, moment of thank you. Texting them during the break and just to make sure temperature rise a little bit with all their shenanigans sometimes. But and then I have a younger one who just turned 16 last Friday. So what got me really interested in this is I was working full-time at my church and was married, and my husband was struggling with addiction. And the church came around us, and we, were working hard to kind of make sure he was okay and the girls were okay, and they were fighting constantly. And someone said, you should really go and see this temperament coach. And I was like, what is a temperament coach? But at this point, I had done everything, every program and resource I could. I was involved in the recovery community and Al-Anon and doing counseling. And so I said, great, let me go check out this coach. And so I met Kathleen Edelman, so she's the author of this material. She didn't develop it, but she is kind of one of the champions of it. She had studied under Florence Littauer, who had written Personality Plus and Personality Plus for Parents back in the 80s. And this is where we learned about temperaments, and it changed my whole life, because I realized each of my daughters had a different temperament, and I did too. And then I brought it into my workplace and was able to be part of the team that developed the curriculum so that we could have it as a Bible study as part of our church. And then we launched the second edition, which we're now taking into corporations, teaching them how to be better teams and work together. And about 4 years ago, I started doing this full time. So I still do a lot with the church, but now I'm able to go into corporations and talk through how to love each other better, which is really cool to be able to do in the corporate world. So if you can tell from this picture, 2 of my triplets are identical. So the one on the end and then the one to the left of me, and they could not be more opposite. So as I was learning, is it nature, is it nurture? It's a little bit of both, let me tell you, because I parented them the exact same and was getting very different responses. So in the morning session, we talked all about kids and their temperament based on how a grown-up interacts with them. And this afternoon, we're going to talk more about adult-to-adult communication. So the examples might still have some kid examples, but it'll be more work examples and marriage examples and colleague examples and all of that good stuff. So are you ready to dive in? Yes? Okay. Those of you that were here this morning, do you still have the stamina to keep talking about this? Yes? Okay, great. So, temperament is the combination of mental, physical, and emotional traits of a person. It's their natural predisposition. So it is your innate wiring, okay? This is how you come into the world, and really it is unchangeable. So this is like your voice print, your eye color, your hair color, your fingerprint. I'm not saying anyone else in this room does this, but I might color my hair. So after about 6 weeks or so, my natural color starts coming through, and that's a little bit of what we think of your temperament. So we all have gotten feedback along the way of maybe things that we need to kind of, tailor differently towards different environments, or maybe you worked in an organization and they were like, hey, no more of this and do more of that. But ultimately, your natural way of showing up is going to be your natural temperament. So I told you that I had triplets, and I am not typically very organized, and you bet your dollar I had to get my stuff together to be as organized as I could to keep up with who was eating what, when, and all of those things. And so it isn't my natural tendency, but I can do it. It's just not how I would naturally show up, is to be super organized. So that is a little bit more of your personality, what evolves over time. So that is your birth order, your culture, your religion, your life experience. That's now what has given me the skill of organization. It isn't something I would naturally want to do. I'm gonna go on vacation and I like just to fly by the seat of my pants. Let's just stumble into a great cafe, and I have traveled with people that are not my temperament and they want it all planned out. Every detail, every stop, which is, there's not a right or wrong, there's just different, right? And so naturally, because so much of my life is planned, I like to kind of fly by the seat of my pants when it comes to vacation, but that isn't everyone, right? Some of you even saying that is like, ooh, that does not sound wise. Should she be speaking? I don't know. So the temperament overview, this goes back thousands of years ago. Hippocrates had done a study of human traits and behavior and had narrowed it down to people into 4 different categories. You could do the research if you care about it, but he actually, it was people's bodily fluids and monitoring them and watching them and researching them, and was able to narrow it down into 4 different categories. And these are the Greek names. So you have the yellows that are sanguines, the reds that are cholerics, the blues that are melancholics, and the greens that are phlegmatics. He gave the Greek names, and then years and years ago, before Kathleen and Florence, they were paired with colors. So for us, you might hear me interchange that a little bit, but mainly we'll talk colors. What I love about this is the same research that's pretty much the foundation of any other temperament or personality assessment out there. So if you're familiar with DISC or Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, Right Path, Berkman, this is the research that kind of fuels all of those. We all just have a little different take on things that are important in it. And what I love about this, because I'm a temperament assessment personality guru, like I know what number I am, what animal I am, what color I am, what letters I am, all of the things, because I really do love to understand people and myself. This won't contradict anything that you might have heard in the past. It'll just add another layer, because really through this information we talk about what are the words that we can use and what are the specific things that we can do to love other people better. And a lot of the other assessments that I've done is more about understanding myself and understanding how I show up, which is important because the best leaders, the best parents, the best, children, the best church members are self-aware people. And so this is part self-awareness, but it's also going to be part on how we can love other people better by the way that they're wired. So I'm going to go over, because I know we have some new faces, but just the first few minutes may feel a little repetitive because we're going to just highlight the chart itself. 2 of these are extroverts. So our yellows and our reds are extroverts. And for what that means for us is our thoughts, feelings, and emotions go outward. I will come up and have a great idea and I'll talk about it, and then before I'm done talking about it, I've actually talked myself out of it. I had to almost verbally hear myself talking to then come up with what I was going to think about it. On the flip side, we have our introverts, where they are going to absolutely think through everything first and plan it out in their head before they utter a word. So you can see how just these differences in a relationship, in a marriage, in a co-worker business, it can be different, because someone comes in and is like, oh my gosh, we should do X, Y, and Z, and da-da-da, and they're just extroverting is what we call it. And then the introvert is going to, this is a decision to do. Now I need to go do these things. And it actually wasn't. It was just a conversation. So we, in my family now, when this happens, because half of us are introverts and half are extroverts, I will say, I'm just extroverting this idea, because my girls at times have thought I was booking the all-inclusive trip to Punta Cana, and I wasn't. I was just ideating about what that could look like. And so I had to be careful that when I was saying it, they understood I was just extroverting. Okay, so 2 of these, our yellows and our greens, are people-oriented. That means they are fostered towards forming relationships. They want to make sure the person is okay, feels okay. They want to check in with them. The thing that motivates them in the morning is seeing people. If you're a people person, you were excited to get here today to see who you're going to talk to and how they're doing. You remember facts about maybe somebody's sick mother or a child that's getting married. You're very into the emotion and the people and the feeling of it. On the flip side, our reds and blues are task-oriented. So that doesn't mean they don't like people, it just means they are more inclined towards accomplishing tasks, checking things off their list. They want to get it done. Sometimes people become a task for a task person. Meaning I have to do this. I had a boss that was very task-driven, and he would walk around the office and say hi to people, so he could check it off of his list, okay? And so if that's you, you know that having relationships with people is important. You're just focused on the task, so you have to put in some kind of executive functioning skills so that way you make sure that you're pouring into the relationship. Whereas on the flip side, our people need to put in some executive functioning skills to make sure they get something done, that they're not just sitting around talking about how people are feeling and doing. So we have to block out and put reminders to get stuff done. So just this chart here is kind of, basically what we need to know when we're trying to assess our temperament or those that we're talking to. Because you typically fall into one of these categories. You'll have a dominant and a secondary. So as I go through some of this explanation, some of you may have taken the assessment. We do have one that you can take. I'll put a code at the end, or it's on your brochure. But really, you will hopefully be able to self-identify through the examples that I'm using and the stories that I share. Because ultimately, the assessment is a guide. It kind of tells you, you answer certain questions, but you know yourself. And if you maybe aren't self-aware enough, you could ask your spouse or your friend to help you answer these questions, because sometimes the way you think you show up is different than the way you actually do show up. And that's also really important to know. So you have a dominant and a secondary. So it is very likely, I'll just kind of disclose, I'm a yellow-red, but I can interchange those. I don't really have much blue or much green, but you can have a little bit of everything in you. It's just a matter of what is your dominant and secondary. The one thing to notice is in the green section, it tends to throw people a little bit because they are a people-oriented introvert. Kind of an oxymoron. Doesn't always fit. So these are folks that are very people-driven, emotions and feelings, and they want to be in the mix, but they are more introverted, so they're going to think before they speak. So and also the greens are the most adaptable in the group. So as I'm explaining these and going through each of the temperaments, if you kind of resonate a little bit with each of them, you might be a green, because that is the most adaptable temperament that kind of can ebb and flow through them. But there's also high greens that they may test out where they're almost 100% green, and that's always good to know as well. Okay, so we're going to dive in and just talk through what each of these temperaments are, and then we're going to have some discussion around the tables and do some shared learning and just have a fun couple of hours. And I say fun because I'm yellow, and people and fun matter to me. So if we're not going to have fun, I don't want to go. Anything that's boring and not fun, I'm like, whoa, no, don't want to do it. I speak the language of people and fun. So if you're yellow, you're in the room, you speak this language as well, and we use the word fun all the time. I tried to motivate my 4 daughters with fun all the time until I realized that only one of them was yellow. Do your chores and we're gonna have fun. Get your homework done, we'll have fun. Make your bed, then let's have fun. Only one was motivated by fun. So this is why this is helpful in relationships, because you can start to learn kind of the currency that each person has. So our yellows, we are quick to share our thoughts and feelings, and we care a lot about the people that are around us. Each of these temperaments has a superpower, and the yellow's superpower is that we are uniquely wired to see the best in people and in circumstance. Isn't that beautiful? Like, we all need a yellow in our life sometimes, don't we? Like, the optimistic one. I don't know if any of you saw the Inside Out movie. Did you guys see that Inside Out movie? Joy is our yellow, okay? She's just, even when there's something coming, it's still positive, right? And so that is her superpower. This was my superpower. But we know every strength overdone can be a weakness and can have the kryptonite. And so the kryptonite of our yellow is that sometimes we don't see the writing on the wall. We're constantly trying to put in and fill in the gap with the best. We are missing what is right in front of us. This was, unfortunately, me in my marriage. It was like, no, he's been to treatment. It's going to be okay. No, this time's going to be fine. No, I really don't think he's drinking there. I think that's just a mistake. So it was like I was almost naively filling in the gap with the best when data was showing me I couldn't do that. And so the other temperaments will sometimes judge the yellows and think that we are naive or we're not intelligent if we are missing some big clues like this, and we're constantly just filling in the gap and saying, oh no, it's an opportunity, it's the best. it kind of gets drowned out. So with yellows, any yellows in the room, what I try to say is, it's a beautiful quality, we just need to pay attention. So when my mentor told me, when something happens 3 times, pay attention. It might be time to pick up the rock and look at the squiggly thing underneath. So when I was in management, like, okay, someone was late 3 times to work, I needed to have that conversation. There's 3 incidents with my husband not following through or doing what he said, I need to have that conversation. My daughter's, missing curfew, I can't always fill in the gap with assume the best. After 3 times, I need to just have that conversation and make sure that we're all on the same page so that I can be taken seriously and I'm not just a pushover. Okay, now let's talk about our reds. Reds, you guys speak the language of power and control. And if you're red in this room, you're like, yeah, mic drop. That's it. Anything else need to be said? That's it. Our Reds speak boldly and confidently with ease, and they want to get things done at all costs. Their superpower is that they are uniquely wired to be visionaries who can see and achieve goals. I love me a good red because they get things done. They see it. There's someone that can walk into a room and kind of hear the chit chatter of like, there's a problem, this is what's going on, and they maybe only are listening for 20, 30 seconds, and they immediately are like, this is what you need to go do. This is the answer to the church's financial problem, or this is the answer to the piano problem, this is the answer to the business problem, this is the answer to the family problem. They just immediately kind of see the tree through the forest and want to get everybody moving in that direction to accomplish the goal. So it's a gift. And sometimes you're like, gosh, you just showed up. Like, you need to like listen longer. And they're like, no, I got it. Like, I see the problem. And they really often do. And they often are right and know the direction it needs to go. And they will accomplish the goal. But sometimes they get to the goal, they've made it, they're up at Mount Everest and they're cheering, and they look behind them and their friends or their family or their coworkers are either dead or on life support. Okay, they've stepped over them. Some of them might even be at base camp. They never even made it out on the hike that day, because sometimes Reds just march so forward to get that goal that they leave people in the dust, or they don't communicate enough to make sure you're all marching in the same direction. What I tell a lot of Reds is it's so much sweeter to celebrate the goal and be at the top of Mount Everest with all of the relationships that are intact and you can celebrate together. So it's just important that the superpower doesn't become your kryptonite and you hurt the relationships in favor of making the goal. Okay, our blues, they speak the language of perfection and order. Yes, I do. Not me, you guys do, those of you that are blue out there. Because I forget things a lot. And blues in my life help me a lot because they are thinking of all of the details and paying attention to that nitty-gritty level of things. They're uniquely wired to anticipate obstacles and creatively problem solve. Beautiful. They're the ones that hear the ideas and they immediately go to how is this going to work. They can see the nitty-gritty details that you can't see. They get into the weeds and they can immediately know what's going to go and what's not going to go, which is beautiful. And they can creatively problem solve. So when they hit a wall, like, oh, that's not going to work, they kind of find a way around it, which is lovely. However, what do we think the kryptonite be if somebody in your life is blue and they're always able to point out the obstacles? Sometimes it's like, wah, wah, right? You're like, come on, get excited about the trip to Punta Cana. And they're like, you can't afford it. What are you doing? You can't do this. You're like, no, it'll be fun. And so what I try to say to the blues is just think about how you're communicating it. It doesn't mean that what you're saying isn't valid. It's how can you be using your words to communicate that truth in a more positive way. And I'll give you an example. When I was working at our church, I had a coworker, and her name was Cindy, and she was very blue, and we learned this concept. And I always had my best ideas about 48 hours before an event we were going to be hosting, and my ideas was like constituted her problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, because she was the getter-doner. And so we learned that instead of when I would come in, she would be like, oh my gosh, Jenny, that's an idea. Notice she didn't say that's a good idea. Or that's a great idea. She'd be like, that's an idea. And she'd be like, for next time. I'm like, okay. So I felt positive, like my idea. I mean, I, as a yellow, only heard the tone of voice. That's an idea. I thought it was a good idea. She didn't even say it. But it helped me realize that we are too far in the planning for her to change it up, to add my idea in within a 48-hour period. So she just, in her tone of voice and the way she approached it, helped me not feel completely like deflated when she had to poke a hole in my idea. So for blues, you are so good at seeing something and knowing it's not going to work or knowing what would be better. So it's just in how you communicate that to the other temperaments, so that way they don't feel deflated. Because you know what happens as a yellow, right? I'm people and fun. What happens, I used to come into Cindy and do a song and a dance, trying to like use my charisma to get her on board with my idea, and that just would irritate her as a blue. She's just like, stop it, we're not doing that, that's not a good idea. And so it helped our relationship to be able to kind of ebb and flow with each other. Make sense? Yes? Okay. All right, let's go to our greens. Greens speak the language of calm and harmony. Oh, greens. Let's all just take a deep breath for our greens, shall we? Let's all. If you're green, you're probably like, okay, I came in the afternoon, or I was here already. Jenny, you don't need to talk so fast. Just, you got 2 hours, take a break. We're just gonna chill. We don't need to get all excited, right? Let's just take it easy. You don't need to even talk so loud. You're on a microphone. Like like the calm tone. That's how greens are. They are uniquely wired to be calm and kind in the midst of chaos. This is a green. Someone could come in and they could be like, the church is on fire, and they're gonna be like, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. Take a break. It could just be a false alarm. We may not even need to evacuate. But then they might go, nope, I smell smoke. I do smell smoke. Maybe we should exit the building. But there's just a calmness to them. And what a gift to have in a friend or in a partner or in a child or in a coworker or a church member that just kind of keeps it calm and steady all the time. They found out that they won a bonus at work and we're going to go to Hawaii, and they're like, hey, we're going to Hawaii. Then something bad happens and their kid got in an accident, like, the kid got into an accident. It's just kind of all steady. And so what happens with this, that is their gifting, but the kryptonite of this might be like, are you in there? Is there any sense of urgency? The building is on fire. We need to go. And so you find yourself trying to give them a little bit more animation and energy because they're just so steady. So it's important for our greens to be aware, even though we know you have a lot going on inside and you're excited and your heart might be beating, on the outside it still seems kind of flat. And so we want you to kind of express a little bit more, especially in business. I do a lot of corporate trainings. Like, in businesses, sometimes people are like, I need to know this is a deadline. Like, this is happening, because you're just so calm. Like, I'm gonna get it to you, and it's like, no. Are you for sure gonna get it to me? Because the greens, I kind of say they're like a duck in the pond. They just look like they're out there cruising, but their little feet are going fast. Like, there's a lot going on inside. You just have to give them a chance or to kind of pull it out of them. This was a perfect example last Christmas. My green daughter came home, and I had spent a little bit more money than I wanted to, and she was going to open her present. We all do it where you each open a present, takes longer. So she had pulled the present under the tree. It was in her lap, and I was like waiting for her to open it. As a yellow, I was like so excited, people fun. And she unwrapped it and opened it and looked at it and looked at me and was like, oh, thanks, Mom. And I was like, I need some more. I need something more than that. Like, I spent way more money than I thought I was going to. So I'd be like, hey, I need some yellow. Like, I need more yellow. She's like, okay. Because we do a redo in our house. So she pretended she was opening it again, and she opened it and she was like, oh my gosh, thanks, Mom. And she got up and came and gave me a hug, and I was like, okay, I feel better. Thank you. I feel better. So it's things like that, that when you know this about another person, she can love me better by giving me a little bit more animation and words and activity, but then I also can understand her better and know she is excited about this gift. She just is going to process that excitement differently than I'm going to process that excitement. So this is the main chart where we can really start to identify ourselves and the people that we come in contact with. And I want to apologize up front because we're coming into the holiday season and you're going to be around all probably friends and family. And once you go through this, like, you're going to start thinking in colors constantly. Like, you're going to be at, the grocery store getting your turkey, and the person checking you out, you're going to be like, I bet they're blue, they're very detailed, or this is what's happening here. So you're going to just start thinking in colors all the time. But this is really the chart, and in my sense, it helps us really love people better. We can start to identify people that we meet or that are in our family. Like, are they introverted or extroverted? Are they more focused on people and tasks? And this will help you immediately start to love them better and help determine. We're not trying to put anybody in a box. in a certain temperament, because every red's a little different, but it will give us some tools that we can use to love them better immediately. So that's my goal of this training. So some of you might be a little more visual, so take a look at this little video that puts it into some fun animation. Tune may stay in your head too, so I apologize about that. All right, I know we've just gone through the very basics, but who in here thinks their dominant might be yellow? Yellows, okay. Usually some yellow makes a little noise like whoop, whoop, whoop. Some little, okay, thank you, got a yellow. All right, what about red? How many of you think your dominant might be red? Okay, excellent, I hope I do a good job. You can hold me accountable to that. Blues, let me see, if you think you're blue, okay. A lot of blues. If there is a typo in my presentation, I'm counting on you guys to let me know about that, right? Okay, what about greens? If you think you're a green, okay. This is gonna just be a chill afternoon. We're gonna learn some stuff, so just sit back, just relax. It's gonna be totally chill. I don't have to say this to you, but I do have to say this to some of my other presentations. No temperament is better than any other, right? We all know this as believers, that God made all of us, and so there isn't a mistake in how you were wired, and it wasn't a mistake in the family that you were put in, and all of this is exactly as it is to be to refine you. And so every family, every organization sometimes can take on a temperament. Like there was an organization I was at recently, and it was yellow. You just walked in and it was so animated and excited, and they shot off confetti cans, and it was like, wow, okay, and I'm yellow, and it was a lot for me. So churches can take on temperaments, and different ministry areas can do that. So it's just interesting and important to pay attention to that, because everybody who walks in the doors, you have all the temperaments that are coming in. And so you want to make sure that you are having an opportunity for every temperament to feel engaged and accepted and loved. And knowing your temperament and accepting your temperament, I always am so sad when someone's like, I want to be this color. And it's like, no, be the color you're supposed to be. Don't try to be a different color, because we want you to be your authentic self, and accepting how God wired you will actually make you more self-aware and make you a better partner, a better spouse, a better employee, whatever it is. It's really just accepting how you were wired and knowing all your strengths and weaknesses. So we went over the little video that gave us some strengths and weaknesses, but I just want to highlight a few. Our yellows, we always have to go first, yellows, so we're starting with us, okay? We are encouraging, we're expressive, we show emotions openly, we're easy to talk to, we think quickly on our feet. We are known for having loud strengths and loud weaknesses. Surprise! Are you surprised by that? We can be compulsive talkers, we can be scatterbrained, we can be disorganized, we can have restless energy, and we can be impulsive. I was the very first mom to sign up to be mystery reader in my girls' classes at school. And I was the very first mom to forget that I signed up to be mystery reader in my girls' school. That is not, I don't get to use it as an excuse, but it's a good awareness that I need to have some executive functioning put in my life to remind me of where I need to be and when, because I can be scatterbrained, right? So our yellows, we can be one of your magnetic friends and best storytellers, or we can be a source of drama.
because we stir things up. So we want to live in our strengths and be fun and magnetic and not into our weaknesses. Let's look at our reds. Our reds, they delegate well, they're energized by challenges, they get it done, they're responsible, they're highly task-oriented, but they can come across arrogant, they dislike tears and emotions, they can be a know-it-all, they can decide for others, and they can be inflexible. One of my very good friends who's in this presentation, she's my partner, she's very red, Jessica. And when we were working at the church, she had a clear office, and one of our coworkers was very emotional. And I could always tell when Katie was having a rough day, she'd walk in and I could see the back of Katie and I could see Jessica's face, and Katie would be crying and emotional, and Jessica just was like, she literally had no idea what to do. Like, can you like go figure out what's wrong and then come back and talk to me, you know, logically? Like the tears and the emotion just sometimes send a red, like they don't know what to do with it. They're like, fix that and then come talk to me. They need kind of clear, logical conversations. But our reds have powerful strengths and powerful weaknesses. It makes them incredibly dynamic leaders, or they can be the family or office bully. So we want to pay attention to how they show up. Our blues, they are analytical and creative, respectful, punctual, moved to tears with compassion. But they can be withdrawn, they can be skeptical, they can be hard to please, they can be guarded, and they can be insecure socially. My blues, friends and one of my daughters, they always tell me they never quite feel like they fit in. They always feel like they're the odd man out. And me as a yellow, I don't ever feel that way. Because if I'm feeling awkward, I just insert myself into the conversation. I just show up. Someone's talking about going to lunch. I'm like, great, where are we going? I'm inviting myself along with you. And blues just always never feel like they're included or that they're supposed to be there, a little socially awkward. And I think that's really helpful to know. If you're a blue out there, you're not alone. But also, if you love a blue, know that's how they feel oftentimes. They're not going to want to walk into a Christmas party or a family Thanksgiving party alone. They're going to want to have a companion with them to feel comfortable. Whereas some yellows would be fine to probably walk in and make friends in there alone. Our blues, they have deep strengths and deep weaknesses. So they can be your most compassionate friend and supportive friend, or they can be your toughest critic, because they're wired to see the obstacles in situations. All right, let's look at our greens. Our greens are even-tempered, warm and inviting. They have great common sense. They're generous, and they're very, very tolerant. Now, that's the last on the strengths, because every strength taken to extreme, like we've talked about, can become a weakness. But greens, those of you that are green in the room, let me see your hands again if you're green. Tell me if this resonates with you. Someone mistreats you, but you're tolerant, so you don't say anything. You smile, and you're just like, okay, take it. But what happens is a little chit forms in the back of your head. I'm not saying a cuss word, chit, C-H-I-T, look it up. It's actually a thing. Okay, you put it in the back of your head. And then let's say you go home, and your kids didn't do what they said they were going to do, and you feel disrespected, and you might get onto them, but you still don't lose your cool totally. You just kind of, okay, and another little chit forms in the back of your head. Then maybe you come to church, and on your way home, or on your way to church, someone cuts you off in traffic, and you're like, I'm on my way to church, it's okay, I'm not going to do or beat my horn, but then another little chit forms in the back of your head. Then you come into church, and someone sits in your seat that you've been sitting in, and you don't say anything because you're a good Christian, you want them to have that seat, but another little chit is in your head. And then your husband's like, let's go to lunch after church. And you don't tell him what you wanted because you were unsure, but he picks a place, and now all of a sudden all the chits hit the fan. And you're surprised. You're surprised yourself because you didn't realize you were carrying that many chits and that you were all upset. And it's like, where'd that come from? And you're like, I don't know, because you as a green are so tolerant, you don't know if you're gonna lose it on chit 11 or chit 23, okay? You just are unsure. But it shocks people, and then people are like, whoa, where did that come from? Are you red? They think you're red, and you're not red. You're just a green who has had too much chit, okay? And so, what I tell people is if you're green and this resonates with you, just alert the people that you love or the people that you work with every now and then. Like if you're coming in here tomorrow morning and after today, just be like, hey, I just want you to know, Laura, Pastor Laura, I'm on chit 8 today. I'm not sure when it's gonna explode, but I just want you to know that. Because it is so hard to read you as a green, right? Because you're so steady that we often don't know what's going on. And that will open a door for people to kind of see how much weight you're carrying, how much is going on. Does that make sense? Greens, again, does that resonate with you? Yeah? And if your spouse or someone has been the recipient of the shit hitting the fan, they're like so shocked. They're like, what has happened? You're so calm, but not right now, and you're shocked yourself. So we want to help you not be so shocked about that. All right, you can be unenthusiastic, you can avoid responsibility, you can resist change, you can lack self-motivation, and you can be sarcastic. So those are just some of the weaknesses or things to pay attention to. Our greens have peaceful strengths and peaceful weaknesses. They can literally be your kindest friend. They're going to show up, they're going to serve you, they're going to bring you meals, they are so kind. Or they can be the friend that's the hardest to get moving or the hardest to kind of have them make a decision. They stay in indecision sometimes. Does that resonate with some of you guys? Okay. So moving along, your temperament determines the words that you say. So even when you don't know someone and you just listen into them a little bit, listen for these things because it will give you a clue to what their temperament is. So our yellows, we often speak with fun, animated, exaggerative, people-oriented words. It sounds like, that sounds fun, come join in. Or, I totally forgot. Our reds, they often speak with bold, bossy, confident, or controlling words. Sounds like, I'll do it, hurry up, follow my lead. Oftentimes we tease reds that they speak in bullet points. It's just like quick bullet points. That's how they speak. Or if you even get an email from them, it's like boom, boom, boom. That's it. Fewer words, the better. Our blues, they often speak with detailed, analytical, and compassionate words. I've been giving it some thought. I don't trust them, or are you sure that's safe? We're going to talk in a few minutes of how important safety is to our blues. We talked a little bit about that this morning with children, but we're going to talk about how that interacts with adults as well. And then our greens, they often speak with sarcastic or easygoing, patient, and kind words. It sounds like, no big deal, I'm good with whatever. Can it wait until tomorrow? Because a good green, you never do anything tomorrow never do anything today that could be done tomorrow, right? Why work ahead? Are you kidding? Reds are the ones working ahead because they want to check it off their list. Greens are like, no, we've done enough today. We don't need to get that. We don't need to check that off our list. So if you are visual, like I said, we have part of this study that we did, we interviewed and coached 4 people that are very dominant in their temperament. So we're talking like 50 to 55% or higher, they test out to the very dominant color. And so we asked these 4 people that are each represented in a different temperament one question. And you'll see how different they respond. Take a look. Tell me about your lunch today.
For lunch today, we had buffet-style barbecue. We had pork and chicken, mac and cheese, baked beans, peach cobbler. It was really good. It didn't look like it was going to be as good as it was, but it was exceeded expectations.
My lunch today was free, which makes it the best lunch I've had all week. And the highlight of my lunch was dessert, which I shouldn't have eaten.
Jeremy, can you tell me about your lunch today?
About my lunch? I went to the cafeteria, got in line with a bunch of people, and got a tray, some silverware, and started going through the line and picked out pretty much everything that was available, including dessert. I love dessert. And then went and set my tray down, found a table with people I knew, and then went back and got my drink. You want me to tell you about having lunch with those people?
Sure.
Okay, so I sat down with this group of people I knew and got to talk through a lot about temperaments. Imagine that.
What did I have? Okay, first of all, let me just say I went a little overboard, okay? I just, you get really hungry and then you put too much on your plate, okay. But I had barbecue and it was almost like Jim and Nick's, almost. And I had there was a bun with chicken and I got the hot sauce. I got 3 sauces, wasted 2 of them, okay? I got the hot sauce and then, I had this amazing peach cobbler. And sweet tea too, because you have to have sweet tea with barbecue. and coleslaw. And the coleslaw got all over my barbecue. And then these beans that were very colorful. Okay, I think that's it. Macaroni. I had macaroni too. Okay.
So once you see it, you can't unsee it, you know? It's like all of a sudden, it's just like, oh my gosh, it just comes out. And what I was telling the group earlier this morning is children are their most authentic temperament because the world hasn't told them not to be yet. So sometimes us adults carry some of that baggage, so we try to tailor our temperament. But what we want to do is we want to be the best and living in the strengths of each of our temperaments. So what I would love for you guys to do is take 10 minutes around your table, and on your brochure or your little handout here, we have some listed on the inside, some strengths and weaknesses. And I would love for you guys to discuss these two questions. Go around and share your temperament, what you think it is. Maybe you're dominant and secondary, and if you're unsure, that's okay. We're gonna, hopefully by the end, you'll be able to determine it. And share one of the strengths and one of the weaknesses that stands out to you. It doesn't have to be on the list. It can be off the list or something that was in one of the videos. And then I would love for you to talk about how does your temperament show up with your friends or family? Maybe an example of how you've recently seen your temperament show up. So take about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and talk together. Thanks. We're going to go on to the next part, which those of you that were here this morning know this is my favorite part. This is the most important, and your needs don't change. When you're born, whatever temperament you are, it's the same needs, but they will morph and look different, and you'll fill them in different ways because your temperament determines your words that you need to hear. And so every temperament has 4 needs. And these are not just nice to-dos, these are like food and water. You have been trying to fill these needs your whole life, and you're gonna do it in any way that you can. And if your strengths will help you fill them, you'll use your strengths. But if your weaknesses will help you fill them, you will use your weaknesses. And we want to learn what each other's needs are so that we can be part of a solution of helping them fill those with strengths and bringing out the strengths in others. So I always have our yellows go first, so here we go. These again are the same, and these are the same definitions that we talked if you were here this morning, but you're gonna see how we apply them a little bit differently when it's adults. So this is approval, being liked for who they are without needing to change. This is something that as a yellow 2-year-old I wanted approval, and now in my 50s I want approval. And this is where, this is important to know because in different positions, this can bump up against me. When I was leading a large team in my profession, I wanted my team's approval. As a leader, you're not always going to get everybody's approval. And because I'm yellow and this is a core need, this was an Achilles heel in my leadership. I had to figure out a way that I could be okay if I wasn't getting everybody's approval because I had to make hard decisions. So this is something, if you're yellow, that you want to pay attention to, and you want to realize, how can I get approval, right, from the Lord? We want to go to Him to get our needs met first, but then what are some other areas that I can get? At work, I may not be in a position that I can get the approval that I'm looking for because I have to make tough decisions. But where area in my life can I kind of hunker down and get that need met there? And yes, comments?
I know my professional life, I'm retired now.
Okay.
I agonized before I made a step because I wanted it approval.
Can you guys hear her?
I have a lot of voice. Okay. So I was pretty fearful of, what if I make this decision and I don't get approval? Yeah. And I would agonize and agonize and agonize, and then I would make the decision, everybody would say, great job! And I just wasted 3 days of stress.
Yeah. What advice do you have for yourself now in knowing that? Would you have gotten counsel from one person and then made the decision, or what would you have done differently? Trusted your gut. Yep, trust your gut. And there's going to be times, though, that I'm sure not every decision you made would have gotten approval across the board, and that's
majority rules.
The majority. Yeah, it's important. And if you aren't yellow and you're frustrated with a spouse, or you're frustrated with a colleague or a coworker because you're like, why are they not making the decision that needs to be made? It could be because one of their core needs is approval, and they are internally struggling because they know they're going to upset a person, a group, a staff member, something. And so that's the wrestling that's going on. So I'm not saying it's okay, they still need to make the decision, but maybe you can have a little more patience and grace knowing that this is one of their core innate needs. Okay, next is acceptance, being invited and included. This is so funny because this is still so me. I mean, just as I'm traveling,
with doing different talks and team trainings, like my neighborhood girls get together. Now they're playing mahjong, which I don't even know how to play that, but maybe someone here can teach me. I hear it's very complicated. But they all got together the other night. They knew I wasn't going to be there, and they're posting things on their social media, and I was like bummed. I'm like, man, gosh, they didn't invite me, which they did. It's kind of a blanket invitation, but I didn't get like the specific Jenny come at 7. It was kind of like, but they knew I was out of town. And I literally found myself, I'm like, I feel ridiculous right now because I'm like bummed that they didn't call me or say something. And it would have meant the world to me if someone would have been like, hey, we know you're traveling. It would have been more fun if you were here. Oh, that would have melted my heart. They didn't do that though. But what I would say is you have to pay attention, because if you have yellow, we talked about this morning, children, or you have a yellow colleague or a yellow spouse, like they really want to be invited and included, and you might just want to brush it off. I don't even know how to play mahjong. I wouldn't even go to play, but I would go to see the people. So if someone were to be like, Jenny, why do you even want to go? You don't even play that game. That wouldn't help me, like that would be still sad for me because I want to be around the people. So your yellows want to be included and invited. And so if you're, in a team or you're doing something and you're not inviting the yellow, that's going to be a bump. They're going to definitely feel that, and it's going to be a conversation, and they're going to carry kind of like a heavy rock until they even understand why. Like I remember when I first got into business, I felt like I wanted to be in every meeting. Like I just want to be in every meeting. I don't want to be left out of anything. And finally one boss lovingly was like, that's not your job. Like you don't need to be everywhere in every meeting. And so the more self-aware we are, the more emotionally intelligent we are, the closer our relationship grows to Christ and He meets our needs, then we feel more secure and these needs are met, and we're not then just trying to fill them in negative ways and invite ourselves into things. But it is good to be aware, because my mom, this was her favorite phrase, Jenny, sometimes it's nice to be missed. Now I know why she said that to me. So, okay. Next is attention, having your full focus, especially eye contact. So I personally think I'm the best multitasker on the planet. I can be on my phone and multitasking when we're having a conversation, but you shall not be on your phone when I'm in front of you having the conversation. So I'm just going to speak for me. I'm a yellow hypocrite when it comes to that. But what I would say to you guys is if you love a yellow and you have a yellow in your life, they want your full attention. If you've noticed, they will probably stop telling you the story or stop talking until they get your attention, and it's eye contact. And if you can't listen to their story right then, or you are, distracted, it's better for you to look at them in the eyes and say, hey, Becky, I love you and I want to hear your story, but I am so distracted, I have to get this report out. Can we circle back after lunch? No problem. At least you made eye contact and you made it clear. And it still feels a little yucky, but it's like, oh, you betcha I'm going to follow up at lunch because I got a great story for you, And if you can remember to circle them and go find them so they can tell the story, that means even more. But that eye contact is a really big deal for us yellows. All right, and last but not least, this is affection, being noticed or acknowledged. This is such a big deal, and it's for so long I felt needy and wrong for these being my needs. Like I felt like I was over the top, I was too much. And this content really helped me realize I just need to embrace how God made me. And these aren't bad things, these are how I'm wired, and I need these things in order to be my best self. And so being noticed or acknowledged, it's so funny, like even just last week I walked into church and I saw some people that I knew, and this one person looked at me, we made eye contact, but they made no reference that they made eye contact with me at all. So the whole time I'm like, did they see me? And then because I'm yellow and I can be scatterbrained, I'm like, did I not return a text? Maybe did I forget something? Like I'm in my head wondering what's going on, because I can be scatterbrained. If that person would have literally just done like a head nod or something, I would have saved 10 minutes of nonsense in my head. And so acknowledging your yellow friends when you see them, like, hi, hello, you don't have to always stop and talk, but they want to know that you're seen and they're acknowledging you. It seems little, and it seems for us yellows, I don't know if other yellows feel this way, but it feels needy. But what I've realized, it's just how we're wired, right? And so if you aren't yellow, you're like, this is nonsense. Why do they need this? They just do. And so if you love them best, you will acknowledge them, you will give them approval, acceptance, attention, and affection. And what I said earlier this morning, and this is true for adults too, these are definitions that we've had over the years from Kathleen's coaching sessions and some trainings we've done. But really, you can take these and give them to the yellow in your life and ask them to define what it means. They could be really specific. I gave this to a fellow colleague that was yellow, and them defining it, exactly what that meant, was so helpful to me. We both planned events, and she felt approval and all of the things when I would show up to her event. But we were both on staff at a church and we were both running events, and so it's like, I wanted a night off sometimes, you know? But knowing that my presence made her feel those things, I could once a month go to one of her events to fill that in. But had she not been able to define that and articulate it, I would have never known. So you can do that as a husband and wife, you can do it as a family, perfect time over the holidays. Like you said, you can have a whole temperament day and start getting all of this information so that really you can love each other better. Yes, ma'am.
I want to say it also shows up in email
Oh, yes.
among the types, because as an extroverted yellow, if I don't hear back from someone, I assume there's a problem.
Yeah.
But my husband, I'll pick on him again, if he doesn't hear back from someone, he assumes everything's fine.
Fine, yeah.
So I'm like, what? How does that happen? But
yeah.
that's how I
That's
just
how it is.
need, even if it's just received
Even just
your
a thanks.
email. Yeah. Right?
Which was so funny, I was doing a team training the other day, and this exact thing came up, and the woman said, yeah, I never hear back. She was yellow. And the other woman was like, I don't want to junk up your email just responding thanks. And she's like, but it would help me. She's like, okay, I'll junk up your email. But it is interesting how different people need different things, and once you know that, then you can love them better so that they're not left hanging. Okay, yellows. Let me see my yellows. Does this resonate with you? Do you identify with these needs? Yeah. Excellent.
Definitely.
All right, let's go on to our reds. Are we ready, reds? Your need is loyalty, being prioritized and knowing you had their back. What is so interesting about this is my colleague Jessica, who she's in a couple of slides in a little bit, she is very red and I'm very yellow, and we work together. And we're good friends as well. And this just happened this summer. And we hashed it out in a co-training we were doing, which was quite interesting because I brought this up and I said, yes, being loyal. And I'm like, Jessica, like loyalty is a big deal for you. You're a red. And she goes, yeah. And like you messed that up in July. And I was like, oh, okay, we're going to talk about this live right now in a training? Okay, let's do that. And basically she was saying, I said to her, hey, let's get together this week. It was in July. I'm like, you want to have dinner Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? She's like, I'm free all of those days. I was like, fantastic, let's do Tuesday. Because as a yellow, I'm thinking, let's see the people sooner than later. Let's get it on the books. I want to see you Tuesday. Great, we have plans for Tuesday. The next day, I got a call from one of my good friends. All yellows say good friends, right? But this was a friend that is an acquaintance, better than acquaintance, but she was driving through Atlanta from Minnesota and was going to be in town Tuesday night and wanted to know if I could have dinner. I want to see this friend, so I said, yes, of course, we can have dinner. I called my friend Jessica and I said, hey, I need to reschedule our dinner. Are you still free Wednesday and Thursday? Because my friend's driving through town just on Tuesday and I want to meet her for dinner. And she was like, yeah, I mean, I'm still free. And she was kind of a little miffed, and I was like, okay. And in my head, I'm thinking, maybe she had a fight with her husband. It's clearly nothing I'm doing that's causing a problem. And so we booked it for Thursday. And so I was like, great. I went and had dinner with my friend. Great, no problem, meet her Thursday. She's still a little cold, so I'm like, what's going on? I didn't think anything else about it. And then we're at this training like 2 weeks later, and she was like, yeah, you just like pushed me to Thursday instead of like keeping our plans Tuesday. And I'm like, what are you talking? Yes, but this is a friend, she's only coming in town once. Like I couldn't move her to Thursday. She's like, but you could have called me first and said, hey, would you be willing to move our dinner to Thursday? Because my friend's coming in on Tuesday, and I'd really like to see this friend, but you're my priority, so if you can't move to Tuesday now, I'm gonna keep Thursday. And in my head, I'm thinking, as I'm a yellow, what am I thinking? I want 2 nights out, right? 2 friends, 2 dinners, bonus. And I'm like, she really thinks I would not see this friend on Tuesday when I could see her anytime? But it just shows we're not thinking the way that other people are thinking. And so this was a ding against my loyalty towards her, and she's one of my best friends, and I feel like she should know that she is, but it's just the way that I handled it. The fact that I just called her to tell her we were going to have to push our date versus inviting her into the process. So reds, maybe that resonates with you. I learned something new in that. I'm like, okay, good to know. Sense of control. Everyone pulling their weight and following the plan. This is important for reds because reds sometimes get a bad rap that they just want to control everything and lead everything, and that isn't true. Reds just want to know that everybody's going to do what they say they're going to do. And what happens is when that doesn't go well, the red walks in. Like let's say you're a red and you were in charge of this event and you walk in and nothing's set up and nobody told you what was going on. What's going to happen is your feet start to get hot, then your legs start to get hot, then your torso starts to get hot, and then all of a sudden steam's coming out of your ears. And then the person that was supposed to set up shows up and you don't even have time to hear what they're going to say because now you're going to do their job and you're going to do everybody else's job to make sure that this place is set up and ready to go because you were surprised and weren't communicated with. So then you want to take over control. And so that's what happens. So the best thing to do when you love a red is do what you say you're going to do. And if for some reason you can't, communicate with them. Just give them a heads up. Hey, Sonia, the caterer's running late. I just wanted to let you know. I know you're not red, but you know what I'm saying? That's common courtesy in general, but specifically for reds. They just need to know what is happening. And then they'll show up and be like, you've got it under control. They're not going to try to take over. Right, reds? But when people say they're going to do something and don't do it, the body just starts getting hot, and then you blow your lid sometimes. Okay, appreciation. This is being valued for your unique strengths, and then credit for work is being valued for their contributions. The reason why I talk about both of these together is because they seem similar, but they're very different. Reds are so good at getting things done, accomplishing the goal, finishing the project, that they often get recognized for that and credit for that. But what they don't often get credit for is their character traits, who they are, how compassionate they were, how well they pastored somebody, how well they were such a good listener. And we often overlook that in being able to deposit those types of values back into the red. And sometimes they'll brush it off. Like they'll be like, oh, it's not a big deal. But it is like just balm to their soul to hear, oh my gosh, you showed up, or you're such an amazing provider for our family, or protector. I always feel safe with you. Like that, words like that just really resonate with a red, but they'll kind of dismiss it because they don't want to seem like they're squishy, like they have a soft side to them. Oftentimes reds keep that really closed. However, it does mean a lot. So what I would say is if you know a red or have a red in your life, think, especially the season of Thanksgiving, what is something you could say or do for them that shows gratitude of a character trait? Something that speaks to their soul and their character versus just their accomplishments of things that they've done. Right, reds? Let me see my reds in the room. Does this speak to you? Yes? If everybody did this, would you show up better? Yes. All right, let's look at our blues. Blues, safety, being able to trust their surroundings and relationships. This is huge for blues. And I screwed this up a year ago, and I'm going to tell you about it because I have a very dear friend who is blue, and her son, her oldest son, was dating someone and was about to get engaged. And we had been praying for her, she'd been praying for her children to pick godly spouses and the whole thing. And her and I just went to dinner. It was the two of us because it was my birthday. And she was telling me that Caleb's about to get engaged. And she really is just having a hard time because she doesn't think Anna is the one for him. She's been praying forever, but it isn't what she thought. Her and her husband were both struggling. They're trying to be supportive and all that. So I'm listening, and as a good yellow, I decide, well, I don't like Anna either. Okay? I'm gonna have your back because my secondary is red. So throughout this whole thing, I'm like, hey, we could just pray. I'm your prayer warrior. We're gonna pray Anna out the picture, hopefully, okay? If this isn't what you think is good, I'm on board with you. So we were communicating, but then 3 weeks later, we get together for our little Christmas celebration with 12 of our friends, and we're at a restaurant, and someone across the table says, oh, hey, I heard Caleb's about to get engaged, because their sons were friends. And yellow, Jenny, says, oh yeah, and we don't like her. Yeah, some of you that are blue are all like, you shouldn't be teaching this content. You need to go find your friend. And I knew immediately that I had said something I shouldn't have said. It's that whole you speak before you think. Because I saw her face and it was like, ooh, you shouldn't have said that. And I'm like, oh, but what does a good yellow do when they've done that? they use more words to try to get out of that situation, and so we're trying to like talk ourselves out of it, and then it just gets worse, and it's like you need to just be quiet, which I didn't. But I realized in that moment, this is what this is about for blues. Yes, it's their surroundings. If you were here this morning, I told you about my daughter on the playground, right? So it is physical surroundings. Like my friend isn't going to be the one that's like fighting to, you know, do something really risky, dangerous. But really, it's the relationships. It's hard for her to open up. She has a very small circle of friends. She's blue, and so she keeps her circle tight, and I'm on the inner circle. So I get more of that unfiltered, raw feelings, and it should be sacred. And I betrayed that by blurting out, we don't like her. And so we're fine. She knows my motive. This isn't about my motive was pure, right? My motive, I wanted to be anything was for her. I wanted to be on her side. I wanted to kind of have her feel like we were a team, but because I betrayed that publicly, it did the opposite. So even though my motive was pure, unfortunately, my behavior hurt the situation. So we're fine, we've talked about it, she knows my heart, but I guarantee I do feel like she's kind of closed down the comments a little bit, because it can be, she may feel like I'm untrustworthy, which is devastating, because then I'm not getting my approval and my attention and all the things that I want as a yellow, do you see? So I would say if you are in a relationship with a blue, anything that they say to you or tell you, it is in confidence. This was a big thing. One of my daughters is blue, and because I worked at our church and our story, my marriage, everything was very public there, she was very embarrassed and very uncomfortable that so many people knew about what was happening. And so we just have to be careful that we're not sharing other people's information, especially if they're blues, unless they've given us permission. So blues that are in the room, if you're having conversation with your friends and you're opening up to them, sometimes it's a good reminder, even though you know that you shouldn't have to say this, it's, hey, please don't share this with anybody. Please keep this between us. It's just a good reminder for your naive yellows at times, right? Okay. Sensitivity, this is being understood. You don't have to agree with a blue, but they want to know that you understand where they're coming from, that you have kind of walked around the other side to see the situation from their perspective. You don't have to agree with them though. Support, this is being offered or provided help. Now, blues, you guys are a little bit of perfectionists, right? So you can do it better than anybody else, but you do want people to recognize when you're overwhelmed and you've got a lot on your plate and you need support. And so what I would say is if you blues could open your hands a little bit to how the help is coming, you will actually get more support. Because you can get to 4 a lot of different ways, right? 2 plus 2 is 4, 1 plus 3 is 4, 4 plus 0 is 4. And sometimes blues, when you're doing something, it's like, you're like, nope, it's gotta be 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2, that's all we're doing, 2 plus 2. And you're overwhelmed, and maybe a spouse or a coworker comes in and is like, hi, let me help you. And you're like, 2 plus 2, 2 plus 2, 2 plus 2. And they're like, I'm gonna do it 3 plus 1. And you're like, nope, I'm gonna do it myself. You'll get more support if you could maybe open your hands a little bit and realize you can get to the outcome. It might take them longer, and it may not be as perfect as you want it, but you could get some help if you allowed people to kind of go about it in a way that they could go about it. And if you are, friends or married or a colleague to a blue and they allow you to help them, that is kind of like a badge of honor. Because most of the time they would rather do it themselves because they're going to do it in the perfect way. So if they let you help them, pay attention. Make sure you're on board with what they're doing. Make sure that you do it to the best of your ability and try to meet their deadline. Don't leave them hanging, because otherwise then they're going to just close down again. And even though they want support, they're not going to let people support them. Right? Blues, does that make sense? Okay? And then last but not least, space and silence. Having time to decompress, process, or think. This is what a blue needs. It isn't a nice to do, they literally need space in their world where it's just them, that they can process and think. I was telling you guys I did a big training for a whole Texas school system, and I had one of the principals up after we were doing this, and she was like, where's this? She took the microphone. She's like, where's Miss Jenkins? Miss Jenkins. And Miss Jenkins stood up in the back and she goes, now I know why you hide in the janitor closet. I was like, oh, okay. And it's because Miss Jenkins was a blue teacher, and think of it, if you're in a school all day long, you're probably hiding in the janitor closet for 5 minutes, a hot second, just to like get a little bit of space and silence. But it was so funny, and I realized regardless of what your job is, you have to build in what that space and silence will look like for you. And if you're not blue, I'm not blue. I don't need space and silence. I'm usually good with people all the time. So when other people opt out of coming to a function that I'm doing, or I'm doing a training and I have a blue colleague there and she's like, I'm just gonna order room service. I'm like, you are? But I would take it personally. Like, you don't want to be with me. And what I realized, it is not that at all. This is how she recharges. She needs space and silence, and I need to love her by not taking it personally and making it about me. It's about her. She needs that. So when I do these trainings, sometimes I'll do like leadership team offsites for 2 nights, and by the second night, I'm like, hey, to the CEO, I'm like, where are the blues? And they raise their hands. I'm like, can they have the night off? They don't want to go to happy hour. They don't want to go to dinner. They just want to go in their room, talk to their family, and veg. And all half the time the CEO's like, really? And the blues are all like, yes, please, let us just be. So if you're here today and you've been with us all day and you're blue, by tonight, you're done. You're toast, right? Yeah, Sonia, you got tomorrow too, but you're like, it's done. I'm over. No more of this. So let me see my blues. Where are your hands? Does this speak to you? Do you identify with this? If everybody knew this and could do this and love you better, would you show up in all your strengths? Thumbs up. Amen. Okay. Let's look at our greens, shall we? Our greens. Harmony. Everyone getting along or everything going smoothly. Our greens are incredible barometers. They can carry the tension. They can walk into a room in a hot second and know what's going on, that someone's upset with somebody. Harmony really matters to them. They don't necessarily want to be the ones in charge of making it harmonious, but they want someone who's supposed to make it harmonious because they feel it big time. Second is feeling of worth. This is being valued for their unique strengths. This is interesting. I was just doing this corporate training, and one of the senior vice presidents had retired, and he was green. And now the team of 8 leadership executives, there was no green on the team. No green on the team. They were gone. And this team was struggling. And we were trying to figure out what it was, and what I realized is that green person, that green senior vice president, was almost like the shepherd of the group. They knew whose daughter was getting married, whose mom was in hospice, who was having marriage. Like, they were the team manager in a sense, just making sure everybody was doing okay. And that person retired, and now they all were just kind of like floundering. And when we realized that, when he was going to make a new hire, it was like, I think we need to bring in another green, someone that can kind of be the team parent executive to kind of bring us all together. And oftentimes, if you're green, you don't even realize that this is like a gift. This is your superpower. This is what you do. You bring calm and steady and relationships and peace, and you just naturally do it. So you're like, this is nothing, but this is not every temperament can do this. This is what you do. And so we want to make sure that the greens realize that that is so valuable, and how we communicate to them and let them know how much we appreciate what they bring to the table. Lack of stress and absence of conflict and combative words. Greens are very tone sensitive as well. So they don't like a lot of noise. They don't like a lot. In fact, a green watching 2 reds communicate feels uncomfortable. Because 2 reds can be having a perfectly fine conversation, but the way they talk, the curtness, the bullet point conversation immediately is ruffling the reds' feathers. I was doing a parenting conference not long ago, and there were 2 parents, 2 reds, and it was working out, but they had a green child, and this green child was like, oh, like even just the 2 parents talking was driving them crazy. And I've been in corporate meetings where there's 2 red executives and a green, and they're just like, this is just so sharp. And they walk away thinking, are they mad at each other? Like, they're clearly mad at each other. And these 2 reds are happy as pigs in mud. There's no frustration whatsoever, but it's just because they're so picking up the vibe, and they're reading between the lines and the tone. The greens can feel that stress, and it causes them stress. And last but not least is respect, being asked for their thoughts or opinions. So I have a beautiful green coworker named Lauren, and I would come in and I would say, hey Lauren, you want to go to lunch today? And she would say yes. And I'm yellow, she's green, we're people oriented, we're gonna go to lunch. Reds and blues, you usually work through lunch, right? You're getting your stuff done, but we're going to lunch. And I said, hey, where do you want to go? What does my green friend say? I don't care, wherever you want to go. And I'm like, okay, great, how about Chinese? No, not Chinese. Okay, how about Mexican? No, not Mexican. Like, all right, how about like California Pizza Kitchen? We'll get a salad. She's like, okay, that sounds good. And what I realized as I've been doing this and having more resin or greens in my life is oftentimes our greens don't know what they want until they know what they don't want. So loving our greens is actually giving them options and choices. Reminding them of areas that they've liked before. Hey, remember that little cafe we went to? You want to try that? And the biggest thing that I've seen when I've done this in like marriage environments is, opposites attract. So a lot of times reds and greens get married and blues and yellows get married. And when you're dating, you put all those strengths on the table and you're like, oh my gosh, you complete me. And then you get married and you're like, I hate you. Not really, but now we're all discombobulated. But what is so important is that you never stop asking your green for their thoughts and opinions. Because even though they're saying, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, if you just stop asking, that's when some of the chits start forming. Because you don't want that. You want to make sure you're always checking in with them and asking, hey, do you have an opinion on this? Oftentimes they won't. And greens, if you would just try this for the next 30 days, instead of saying, I don't care or whatever, try this phrase, I don't have a preference. For some reason, that phrase lands better with the other temperaments than you saying you don't care or whatever. Okay, so just try that. I don't have a preference. And people might go, oh, somehow it makes it think that you've thought about it, or I don't know, it just lands a little bit differently. Okay, so let me see my greens. Where are my greens? Does this resonate with you? Okay. And the thing that I love about all this is, yes, I wish everybody was here with their whole family so they could hear this and then everybody could fill each other's needs. But even if one person in a family knows this, and starts doing this and speaking and loving in the way that the other person needs, it can start to change the dynamics. It's shocking. So even if you're the only person in your family here, it can absolutely start to change how you relate to those around you. So don't give up hope. And they might be so interested that then they're like, huh, what thing did you do at the church? Because you're much easier to be around now. I want to learn more about this. So they may have a little bit more interest going on. Okay, so these are the needs, and they're listed on your handout. So I would love for you guys to take another few minutes and talk. Which one of these needs did you naturally connect with? So if you're on the fence, you're not quite sure what your dominant and secondary is, or maybe you're like, I feel like I'm all four. I want you to look at the needs, and I want you to kind of put stars next to the ones that really did something when I talked about it inside of you, and put a star next to it, because that's going to help you really determine where you are, where you're finding your needs and what is needed for you. And then I'd love for you to share, do you have an example of how you have used your words or behaviors, as you think about the needs? Like maybe sometimes, you need this, so then you're projecting this onto other people. So just have this talk, and then we'll come back and wrap up in just a few minutes, okay? Thanks. Okay, so this works, and once you've seen this, like I said, you can't unsee it, but I want to share, because it is face-to-face, your verbal communication and your nonverbal communication, you will begin to pick this up. But this also in emails, like Emily had talked about, and in text messages, you will begin to see people's temperaments just play out as it is. So, it's I said this and you heard that. And what causes problems is all that gray space in between, because we expect people are going to respond the way that we would. And then we read more into it. And that's not it. I really don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and is like, man, I hope I can just tick people off today, right? I don't think they are. I think that people genuinely want to communicate well. They're just speaking a different language because their temperament's different. So these are Kathleen's kids. Bryce, they're only a year apart, and Bryce went to Georgia Tech and was studying abroad in Ireland. This was a couple summers ago. And his sister, Avery, is yellow, and she was at the University of Georgia, and they were on a group text, the family, and Bryce sent this text. Tour was awesome. Also, talked to someone from the UK the whole time, so it was really interesting. Just got on the bus back to Limerick, safe and sound. So this is a very blue text, a lot of detail. The only thing that is a little odd is that awesome is in all caps. Blues don't usually do that. That tour must have been lit for him to put it in all caps, okay? And to use an exclamation point, blues don't usually do that. Blues are usually more 4-star people than 5-star people because there's always room for improvement. So this tour had to have been great. And he's using one of his needs. He's back on the bus, safe and sound, because safety is really important to him. A few minutes later, his sister responds, Yay! Exclamation point, exclamation point. I'm so thrilled to hear that. That's so cool that you got to talk to someone from the UK. I'm glad you're back safe and had fun. Emoji, emoji. Which is a very yellow text, right? We're like, yay! Always exclamation points. If you're yellow, it's probably, I mean, my first 5 years in my corporate career, I don't think I ever used a period in any email or anything that I ever sent. It was all exclamation points. And emojis, do we ever send things without emojis yellow? Like, sometimes I just send an emoji to someone and I think they're gonna know what the dancing lady in the red dress means, but I don't know. So you can see what the yellow is focused on. She's saying he had fun. He never said he had fun, did he? But because he got to talk to someone from the UK, in her mind, because people matter so much, that's fun. So she's saying, you had fun. So you can see the difference in the communication styles. And then 1 minute later, he says, oh no, someone sat next to me on the bus, the whole trip is ruined. Okay? Because what did we just learn about blues, right? They need their space and silence. If he just spent a few hours on the tour talking to someone, he's done, D-O-N-E. That poor person who sat next to him is not gonna get any chatter from Bryce the Blue at all, okay? And that person might take it personally, right? But if you know the temperaments, you're gonna be like, oh, I wonder what's going on with this guy. You're gonna fill in the gap maybe with something of their needs. Okay, I don't want our reds and greens to feel left out, so these are two of my colleagues. Like I said, Jessica is very red, like 90% red. Christy's pretty green, but she's probably 60% green. And they were having a meeting, because we all work together, and Jessica sent this text. I'm stopping for coffee before the meeting. You want something? Christy. Jessica, hello? I'm in the drive-thru. Christy. Maybe a vanilla iced latte, or if that's too tricky, just a black coffee is fine. Or if you're already on your way back, don't worry about it. I'm good with whatever. Jessica, which one? You have 10 seconds to decide. Christy. An iced Americano with cream and sugar, which is not even in the first one, if you notice that, right? And then Jessica just gives her an eye roll, which is so funny. Now, we all have tendencies. Jessica shows up and she has a tendency to be impatient because she's red, but she can choose to be kind. I have a tendency to be scatterbrained, but I can choose to kind of show up and take good notes, or to be a good listener and to not do things. We get to decide how we show up. So we can't just let our wiring dictate us, and we don't want to use it as an excuse or a weapon. Just because I'm yellow doesn't mean I don't have to be professional and organized and on time, right? And so we get to decide how we show up. And when you know your temperament and that of your spouse, your coworker, your pastor, your child, it changes every conversation. Because now you're looking at the lens through their eyes. And it's a game changer because you can decide how to show up. And again, I learned this with one of my daughters, and I had a choice in this matter because she, you guys might have this here, it was book character day. You get to dress up for book character day. I don't know if you do that here, but in Atlanta, that's one of the things. And she was in the first grade, and she's my youngest, and she's very red. And so I'm a yellow mom, so we go all out. I painted her hair purple, we had full makeup on, I mean, the whole to-do. We walked to the bus, and I get her on the bus. And I kind of looked around and I thought, gosh, there's not that many other kids dressed up for book character day, but maybe it's just a first grade thing. Off she goes, off on the bus. Some of you already see where this is going. Yeah. And so that day I had to work late. And so she was going home with her friend in our neighborhood on the bus. So I'm in my meeting at 3 o'clock, and that day I get an email from the teacher, and it says, reminder, book character day is tomorrow. So my extremely red 7-year-old has been at school all day, dressed up on the wrong day. I'm in my meeting and I am scared for my life, literally. I'm like, she's gonna kill me. I don't even know what I'm gonna do. And so I literally said, I have to leave the meeting. I'm so sorry, I can't be here. I go, I'm like, go to my neighbor's house. She opens the door, the mother, I even felt judgment from the mother, like, you know, book character is tomorrow. I'm like, yes, Martha, thank you, I know. And Skylar comes upstairs and she's, walking up the stairs at the end of the day. And if any of you remember kids in elementary school, I mean, once they've been at school all day, they're a hot mess. Like her makeup is now running down her face, her hair's glued to her ears. I mean, it's awful. And she's looking at me like, you. And I'm like, I'm scared. And so we walk outside and I kneel down and I'm like, Skylar, I am so sorry. I know you needed loyalty and you thought I didn't have your back and you had no control today. Will you please forgive me? Did she give me a hug and kiss me and say, I forgive you, Mommy? No, she did not. She backed up and she put her hands on her hip and she goes, you do this all the time. Which, to my defense, I actually never dressed her up for book character day on the wrong day, but we might have shown up to a birthday party on the wrong day before, so I kind of understood where she was going with it. But right then I had a choice. I could decide that my needs were more important. Oops, sorry, I wanted to pull up the needs that I had there. I could decide that my needs were more important than hers, which that would look like me trying to get approval and acceptance and attention and affection. And that would look like this. Oh, come on, Skylar, this is not that big of a deal. Guess what? This is not a big deal. You don't need to be angry at me. Come on. You know what? Actually, it's your lucky day. You know why? Because you get to dress up 2 days in a row. Like, I could have yellowed all over that. Would that have helped our relationship? No. It wouldn't have. So I needed to be okay because I messed up. And I needed to let her sit in the back seat and give me that stink eye in the rearview mirror and let her huff and puff and go upstairs. And I had to be okay with it. I couldn't use this situation to fill my needs because I'd messed up. And so that's what's going to help the relationship. Now, Reds do hold grudges. So just when the time changed, we got an email saying you could wear your pajamas to church, and she was walking upstairs and she backed up and I said, hey, you get to wear your pajamas to church tomorrow. She just turned 16. She backed up, she goes, I'm gonna need to see that email. Because Reds will sometimes just pet their grudge a little bit, it never fully leaves you. But this is why we have a choice, and this is why this is so important, because we need to take our glasses off of what our temperament is and put on the glasses of who we're talking to and what their temperament is to be able to show up in the best way possible. So, sorry, let me get back to our little thing here, which is the recap. So, your temperament determines the words that you say. Your temperament determines the words that you need to hear. And your temperament determines, or knowing that of your temperament, it changes every conversation. And so I know we are running short on time, but this is what I wanted to leave you guys with is you can talk about it as you're going out, or maybe take a picture of this slide and talk about it on your way home. But what have you learned today about someone in your life that's going to help you love them better? And what have you learned about yourself that maybe you want to adjust to be able to show up for them better? What does that look like? Because we all get to choose how we show up. That's how it goes, right? So you can take a picture of that, and then some of you, I know a couple of you know about the book already, but there is, we do have books that you can get on Amazon if you're interested. Why is this not going to let me do it? Hold on, I'm going to find my little cursor. Of course. Well, let's go. There we go. So you have these books that if you're interested in. The first one is a 6-week Bible study. The second one is more of a corporate training book. So if you wanted to take this into a corporate team that didn't specifically talk about scripture. And then the grown-ups guide is what we went over this morning.
This one's the Bible
so you can look at those. And then we have a digital assessment here that if you're interested in actually taking it, you can do that, and it's half off. It'll be for the next few days. So you can scan that code in. And then I'm happy to take a few questions. But thank you guys for having me. I hope this has been helpful. If you've been with us all day, thank you for being with us all day, getting up for Saturday. It is always a joy to be able to come to different parts of the country and share my passion for what has been so helpful for me personally and professionally. So thanks for having me. Yeah. Do you guys, anyone have any questions? I'm happy to, you don't have to get the microphone. I'll just be up here if you want to. Or do you have any dismissals that you want to share, Anya? No? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you guys. If you don't mind just taking your trash as you go, that'll help cleanup be a little bit easier. And